Hello, good morning. Welcome to Link Live. Happy Wednesday, even though I thought it was Thursday. My name is Marina Mayer, editor-in-chief of Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive, and I'm here with my lovely ladies. If you want to go around the room and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Brielle Jekyll.
Oh, and I am McKenna Morales. Like, you didn't say your title. I'm used to you saying your title.
Oh, well, it's in my thing. So, oops.
It's okay. She thought it was next week, so we're all good. Today we are talking. I know I'm all screwed up. I think it's next week. I think it's Thursday. I don't know what's going on, but it's Wednesday and it's Link Live. We're so excited. We're talking about liquor in logistics, what is involved with moving beer and spirits and wine and all that yummy good stuff across the borders, how the pandemic has impacted sales, and kind of what's in the future for the future of liquor and logistics. First off, before we dive in, just a couple of housekeeping items. Within the last week, we have revealed all of the winners for both Food Logistics Rock Stars of the Supply Chain and Supply and Demand Chain Executives Pros to Know Awards. And so excited to be honoring all of these wonderful individuals in our industry who continue to day in and day out make transformations that are just beyond our belief. So we're very excited to be sharing all of those winners. So make sure you go to foodlogistics.com and stcexec.com to read more about all of those wonderful winners. So congratulations to all of them. Nominations for Supply and Demand Chain Executives Top Supply Chain Projects closes April 11th. I know it seems kind of far away, but it's really not. So make sure you get those nominations in. Also register today for our next SCN Summit on Transportation, which takes place next week, March 30th and April 1st. Brielle and I will be discussing trends and technologies in our session, which is on Tuesday, followed by our good friends over at Elitech, who will be presenting on Thursday. So register today for one or both sessions, and I'll put the registration link in the chat. So let's talk about what we're really here to talk about, and that is spirits. So Brielle, I know you literally just covered this topic in Food Logistics December issue. I know you also have done some podcast interviews on it. What are some things that you can tell our audience about what you're hearing from the folks that you talk to about trends in this space?
Well, I think right now, one of the biggest things that we've talked about throughout, on the podcast and in that story is COVID. Obviously, I mean, it impacts everything, but it really impacted the packaged spirits sector because they had to shift from having to split between, shipping out to restaurants and distributors, things like that, and then also having packaged goods. But then once COVID hit, everyone was home and people were drinking a lot more. Demand shifted dramatically and skyrocketed. So everyone had to kind of figure out how to deal with that shift. So that was one thing that was really interesting. One of the companies I spoke to on the podcast actually their primary business was you would hire a bartender for a specific event and they would craft like this event with these nice cocktails, things like that. But obviously once lockdown happened, they couldn't do that anymore. So in order to stay, afloat as a business, they have to shift their business model. And they were able to come up with an idea where they hired local bartenders, kind of like an Uber situation. And then that local bartender would deliver you a handcrafted cocktail in like a certain, I think it would be 2 or 3 cocktails per like jar or whatever. And it would taste like a fancy cocktail that you would have out at, a high-end bar, but delivered right to your house. So I thought that was really cool. It was really interesting to see how they did that and how it brought people together. I mean, people were using that service for, company happy hours. They would do it virtually. So it's really, I think, really amazing for me to have seen all of the changes and all of the flexibility that people were able to accomplish throughout the pandemic.
And I think what's cool about that is, we've been so busy talking about, food service and how the restaurants have kind of changed their plan so that they can provide, curbside and they can deliver in areas that they never delivered before. But that's kind of like the same model, just for a different market. And I think the thing that's cool about that is they're taking that experience and they're allowing you to still experience it, you know, in your home, which I think is pretty cool. You know, because the rest, when the bars close down, you know, obviously they're losing out too. You know, it's not just food service, it's
Right.
the liquor, all that. So to kind of find that extra mold to do it is pretty cool. I know you had some podcast interviews, and McKenna, what kind of things have you seen? You know, I know that we haven't covered it a whole lot, but from your vantage point, what do you want to see the industry do?
So I guess as you two know, I'm just not a huge drinker. And also when you said that we were doing spirits and beer, I was like, okay. But I think I'm just more curious about the packaging side of it because it's so like fragile. As
Right.
well, my like luck in logistics, I would just get the shaft and everything, get broken bottles of wine and everything. But I'm curious about the packaging and also the subscription services. Like, how are they beneficial? Well, obviously I know how they're beneficial, but I want to know like the why and everything.
So when it comes to packaging, there's a lot of technology, you know, modernization in that area. So you want something that's lighter to transport, but strong when it comes to, you know, breakages and things like that. So there's a lot of investment in that area and making sure that not just the packaging, like that what you get the alcohol in, but what the crates are packaged in. So
Right.
that's one area that a lot of distributors and transporters in the alcohol space are really paying attention to. Hi, Tootsie. And,
Is it still glass bottles or is it?
oh
like,
yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends on what you're buying. So, like, I subscribe to a wine company, and it's regular wine. You know, it's not their brand. It's brands that they work with, and it's just regular bottles of wine. And they just make sure that the packaging they ship it in is really efficient. And then the logistics providers also have contingency plans in place if something does go wrong. It's usually before it reaches the consumer. And if it does reach the consumer, then there's also plans in place where you can easily contact, you know, customer service and get that taken care of. I mean, obviously it depends on the company, but it's definitely a number one part of their business that they, at least everyone I spoke to, it's a huge part of their business.
Yeah. I also think it was hilarious that alcohol was considered an essential good during the pandemic. Like, I get it. I mean, I don't.
It was, still
I
is.
don't get it because I don't have kids, but I do have a fiance, and it was necessary at some points.
Yeah.
I liked how I'm reading off of this, but I liked how how alcohol companies transitioned into making hand sanitizer.
Right. That was another thing.
And in this new market release that came out today called Hand Sanitizer Market Global Outlook and Forecast 2021 through 2026, the global hand sanitizer market by revenue is supposed to grow at a CAGR of 12% during the period of 2019 through 2026, and that the peak that we saw because of COVID is expected to continue for the next 2 years and will likely start to normalize in 2022.
And that's interesting because that's one of the things I always wonder about. Like, you know, what happens when a lot of the bars and everything starts to open back up? You know, are people going to just ditch the whole, you know, direct to consumer delivery service that they're using and just opt for going out to the bars? Or are they going to continue using that sparingly? You know, it's kind of hard to tell because I feel like you talk to some people and they're like, I'm going to go buck wild when everything opens. I'm just going to go crazy. And then there's other people who are like, I'm okay. You know, like I'm pretty comfortable being at home. So I think it just depends on the target market and maybe even the demographics and where you're at. You know, we saw everybody flooding Miami. You know, so I don't know if something like that would work, you know, for that kind of an area, but you know, you never know. It'd be kind of interesting to see what happens in the next, you know, handful of months.
Right. And if distilleries will continue to make the hand sanitizer now that they know how as well.
I mean, it's an additional, you know, SKU for them, but it's still, you know, important to have.
Well, what is that one company that makes lighters and pens? Oh, Bic. If Bic can do it, the distilleries can do it. They make everything.
Yeah.
My goal for 2021 for these distilleries is to have them make hand sanitizer that doesn't smell like real tequila. I'm begging.
The hand sanitizer at my gym smells exactly like tequila, and I can't handle it because I'm just like, I'm at the gym. I'm trying not to think about that. And then it's like, boom, that time that McKenna made me do a shot at Modex.
She's like on the treadmill just licking her hands.
No, it's the opposite. I'm just like, I want to vomit.
I'm sick of dry heaving in the middle of Target, but I remember when I did a pump of the hand sanitizer when we first all went to the office. Our company is really good. They have hand sanitizer placed everywhere. And I remember the first day that I went and I got some, I was like, oh, okay. just trying to be safe.
I have me and my fiance have bought this one hand sanitizer at a convenience store because we really needed it and we were in a hurry and we were about to eat. And it's clearly like a alcohol distributor that switched to making hand sanitizer because it's a literal flask. Like they didn't change much. It's just a flask and it's open. And so you just pour it on your hand like a shot of vodka and you just wipe your hands. It's so funny. And he hates it. It drives him crazy. I'm like, you just put your hand like up to it and it's okay. It's so funny.
Like even for something like, you know, if I want to put hand sanitizer on my kids' hands, I don't want to put sanitizer that smells like tequila on their hands and then, okay, off to school you go, you know, like, or send it to them in their backpack and they're like, oh, don't mind me, you know, like.
I mean, all hand sanitizer smells a little bit like alcohol besides like the sweet, like the Bath and Body Works kind.
I've never bought hand sanitizer from a distillery, so I never would have in a million years thought that it had that kind of a smell until you just now brought that up. But now I'm totally thinking like, yeah, that would make total sense. So
he has
go back into a grocery store, Marina, and you'll just like be in the middle of Target or whatever and just have like flashbacks.
Yeah, no, I'm good. What were you saying, Bria?
Oh, I wish that I had my car here. I would show you this flask of hand sanitizer because it's hysterical.
Well, maybe you take a picture of it and post it in the chat after so we can all see it.
Yeah, when he gets home, I will.
And for everybody watching, if you have questions or things you want us to talk about regarding this topic, just put it in the chat. I think, okay, so here's an important question. Both of you are engaged and going to be getting married. Yay. So obviously things are opening up and you can, you know, get your alcohol at your wedding. But let's say there were other opportunities for you if you didn't want to, like we paid for an open bar at ours and it was crazy expensive. But if we could do other innovative ways, what are some things that you're thinking in your head would be kind of cool now knowing that some of these guys can do some of these different things?
Like in terms of
like these specially crafted cocktails or different ways of having it delivered depending on where you're at. Because depending on your venue, they don't always have liquor options there. You have to bring it in or, you know, there's certain venues that don't always have those licenses.
Right. So we're actually planning on getting married at the Hemingway House in Key West, which is just a rental. They don't have anything. Everything needs to be brought in. So I was looking at some kind of creative things that you can do, but I found a bar service that brings in their own stuff. So they transport it, and you pick from like certain beers and certain alcohols that they want, and then they ship it there. They bring it there, and then you can do like your special cocktail. The blushing bride kind of.
I was gonna say you're gonna name it something cool, right?
Yeah. I'll name it the blushing Brielle.
I love it.
We're getting married in a theater. And so because theaters have full bars already, we don't have to worry about bringing in anything. We just have to pay for stuff. I haven't really thought that much about it. Because again, I think it's because I don't drink that often that it's just like the bottom of my mind when really it should be like the top.
Oh man, I was so the opposite. I was like, find a place, figure out the liquor, and then find my dress.
Yes. The first disagreement I had from my fiance, I was like, I think we can just get away with beer and wine. Like, I think it's a smart decision. And he was like, no. Like, okay,
yeah,
bye.
so that is what we are deciding to do. We are going to supply the beer, wine, and soda, but we're thinking about having the two cocktails, the groom and the bride.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be a dirty Shirley because
I was just gonna say I know what it is.
I mean the Dirty Shirley.
I'm a child, but we haven't really decided. It's interesting because I think bar quantities and then theater quantities of liquor are so different. I'm also interested to see how like different venues for weddings handle the alcohol, especially for the size limit.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
We had a minimum. Like you have to meet this minimum, and then from there you can upgrade. But we got married in a hotel, so hotels are different. But that's why I was just kind of curious because I know now, and this is also many years later, things are very different depending on the venue and how the liquor gets brought into that venue. Is it custom by order? Is it by bulk? Because hotels are constantly, reservicing their orders, so it's kind of a different situation. So that's why I was kind of curious.
Well, it has to be interesting because regulations change not only state to state, but county to county. So, I'm curious about that because one of the people I was talking to, I didn't get too much into it because it is so confusing, all of the regulations that happen throughout the states.
Yeah.
But when you're importing alcohol, that needs to be distributed in that state and you can't cross state lines.
Okay. It's really interesting.
It's a little more intricate than that. I'm not, alcohol distributor, but it's really interesting. The regulations are a lot. So training in the logistics space when you're transporting alcohol is one of the number one things everyone said to me. It's like you need to be super knowledgeable on the subject and you need to, be fully trained in transporting alcohol.
Oh, I just had something to say now. I forgot. Okay.
Well, and then there's all the temperature controls. Like not every alcohol obviously requires temperature control, but I mean, you want to drink your beer cold, you want to drink wine cold. So there's certain things you want cold. So temperature controls are important. I think that kind of goes in part with the training too, because there are some companies, a lot of them, they handle both, the shelf stable and the chilled. And so it requires two different kinds of thinking, two different kinds of moving the product, loading the product, so yeah, the food safety side of it, the food and beverage safety side of it is very intricate.
Well, that's
sorry, I have a question. Because since I live in Wisconsin, alcohol is everywhere. Like I can go to the gas station across the street and get a handle, but how is it
like
Illinois and Jersey?
You can't do that in New Jersey?
Are you kidding me? We can't get alcohol anywhere but a liquor store.
God, no, we can get it anywhere.
You can't get beer, wine, nothing. I can't pump my own gas. I can't go out to the bar past 2. Like, it's horrible here.
So I didn't know about the pumping the gas until we were all talking on Teams that one day, and I was like, "Wait, what is she talking about?"
blew
And
my
then you
mind.
said that, and I was like, "What?"
Can't pump
Right,
your
so
gas, can't get to the
Mind
gas
blown
station.
again.
So
Wow.
Jersey has incredibly strict liquor laws. You need special liquor licenses at a restaurant, but especially in my town, we only have a limited amount of liquor licenses from restaurants. So like, there's no more. Like, you can't open up a bar right now in my town unless you buy it from somebody else. And then also you can only get beer, wine, liquor, anything at a liquor store. Like, you cannot go to Target or a convenience store and walk out with a 40.
That's sad. Do they have, well, in Wisconsin, you can't buy hard liquor after 9. Is that
I
it?
don't think we have that rule.
That's not a law, no. But our liquor stores don't stay open late. Like, so if it's like 11 o'clock and I'm like, damn, I just got out of work, I need a 6-pack, I'm stopping at the bar that also does takeout packaging for
So
an
that would be-
exceptionally hiked up price.
So that would be kind of where these folks who want to do what they're doing now, even post-pandemic, would continue to take advantage of, because that would be like the area that they would look into. This is just super fascinating because we have liquor everywhere. And
actually,
even when we had our Chuck E. Cheese open before they closed for the pandemic, I was able to get a beer while my kids were at Chuck E. Cheese at a birthday party, and I was like beyond excited.
You
Because
can
that's
only
the
have
most annoying
one
place
an
ever.
hour. At Chuck E. Cheese, you can only have one.
Where?
beer.
Well, I think I
interesting.
only had one beer, so I didn't know that was a limit. But I just
That's
needed
funny.
something to, like, make myself with peace while kids are screaming and running and going crazy.
But that's funny that you mentioned that, because I can't remember if it's all of Jersey or just this my area, but we have a no takeout policy, so you can't go to a bar and walk out with your drink. That's a law. But
okay.
then,
Port Atkinson can. Where
Okay,
at
I
Port
can't.
office, you can open carry.
this is why I'm
That's
getting married
true.
in Key West and not here. And so, but once COVID hit and restaurants were struggling, they opened that up. So it was like a crazy experience to go to, this restaurant that we love and get like a fancy cocktail to go. And then they have, I think I wrote about this in my, food service article. So packaging has now changed, because now they're selling tamper-proof packaging for, to-go cocktails. So that, like, 1, I'm not drinking it on the road, and 2, it wasn't messed with after it was made. Which these are containers I had never seen before. So it's just crazy, all these little nuances, the way, things that COVID has changed. Blows my mind.
Yeah, our restaurants did the takeout too. You couldn't do that before, and then COVID, they would serve your cocktail or your drink or whatever in like a plastic cup with a lid, and they put like some fancy stuff, and then they give it to you in one of those, like, fast food to go beverage cartons. It was just, but sometimes you don't want to make your own drink. Sometimes you don't know how to make your own drink. Sometimes you don't have all the ingredients, and some of the bars, like where we live, it's a lot of like local mom and pop places. And so they have their own kinds of menus that you can't replicate and find elsewhere. So I think that's cool and something that hopefully they can continue. But again, I don't know what those rules are post-COVID when it comes to, beverage carryout. I know we can't just like walk up and down the street with it. I can sit in my driveway, but I can't be walking up and down like our main street downtown area with a drink.
In the town where our corporate office is, you can carry drinks to and from bars. So if you want to like hop, you can just open carry.
All right, I'm coming to Port Atkinson.
That's our next big meeting, whenever that is. If we can come and make this work, that's what we're doing.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to get you guys to come visit. But also,
I've been trying. COVID has been just doesn't want me there.
But also, when Wisconsin opened back up, they like told the bar association in Wisconsin at like 11 at night, close to midnight, that they were able to open up that night. And of course, everybody in my college town just flocked there to the bars. Little Platteville, Wisconsin made national news that they were in the Washington Post.
Oh my God.
I remember that was right after everybody was because none of them were wearing masks, right? Was that it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember that because I sent you the article. I was like, oh, only Wisconsin. You're like, no, you don't understand where this is.
Well,
This is where I went to school, and I was like, oh. Ooh.
That's funny.
so
It's not the
You
Bar
go out, wear
Association,
your
by the way.
masks.
That's a different thing.
The
The
what?
Bar Association is for lawyers.
no, there's like a Wisconsin alcohol bar. You have to be licensed to be a bartender.
I know. I think it's like a restaurant bar.
Well, I don't know what it's called.
I'm just
I just
teasing
hear
you.
bar, and I'm like, where?
Like,
go.
and I'm like, where?
And I just think, for your weddings, at some point, you serve what you want because by like 11 o'clock, nobody knows the difference. So, that helps
Not
resolve
my
it.
group.
True.
Yeah, we got to know our audience, but no. But this was fun, and I think it's kind of important to, keep note of what's going on in this particular part of our market because there is a tremendous uptick in sales. And I think that will just continue because I think, people have become more accustomed to doing things at home and are comfortable. But then, the more that these restaurants and bars innovate, the more we as a consumer get acclimated to that. So I think it's just going to kind of keep going. But we'll see. So thank you, ladies, for your input. To those watching, make sure you go to foodlogistics.com to read a lot of those articles that Brielle was talking about and download our podcast channel. You can also go to secexec.com as well. Otherwise, don't forget to register for our next SEN Summit next week so you can see Brielle and I in action talking about trends and technologies and transportation. The registration link is in the chat. And be sure to join us next week, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Central on Wednesday for our April Fool's Day special on how the last mile continues to pull pranks on consumers. And I came up with this idea because McKenna is very unlucky in logistics. So
Oh my gosh, I already have a complaint. I'll say
There's
that.
more.
So we could talk about that. We could talk about our unboxing the last mile we got going on. And we want to hear from you, anybody who's watching. We want to hear your unlucky last mile experiences too. So please join us in this conversation. Let's chat about why these things are happening and how companies can mitigate these mistakes moving forward. Because even though we are still in COVID, we are kind of hoping that they have it a lot figured out. I have a story too. So, and I'm going to take a picture because it's sitting in my foyer for the past 3 weeks. So you'll just have to tune in till next week to find out. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Central, Wednesday for Link Live. Thank you.